Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Arkansas Razorbacks as we continue along with our preview series. Before we get into the video, as always, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys like, comment, and quickly subscribe to join the nation. Let's get right into the video.
All right, I got to explain this a little bit. I know Steven has said I'm pretty high on Arkansas. So we are both big college football 26 fans. Just being honest, Steven's much better than me at it. So if y'all want some smoke, go see him. But every time I play in a dynasty, the second year, which again, if you're playing college football 25, it would be the upcoming season. Arkansas is like amazing. So I actually went and looked at their roster this offseason, and between Taylor Green and some of the players that they bring back, you're like, man, they do have a nice level of talent. Again, I'm not necessarily saying that this team is going to be a championship contender, but I think this team is going to be better than a lot of us predict. They brought over some good transfer wide receivers. As I mentioned, Taylor Green, who had a really good season last year going into his senior season. You got Braylon Russell at the running back position ready to be that guy. Like I said, two wide receivers came over in the portal. I think this Arkansas team is going to be better than a lot of people project. Not saying that they're ready to win the SEC championship. But remember, this is a team, as you see on the screen, that was able to beat Tennessee last year when they were number 4. I would not be surprised if they pick off a couple of teams this year. Steven, I know you're not as high on them as I am. What's your thoughts on Arkansas?
So we found a few Arkansas fans a couple years back when I said this team was really bad. I think this team is a good team, but I think the situation they're in and the conference they're in is, very much hindering their progression in the SEC. I think if Arkansas was an ACC team or a Big 12 team, we're talking about this team potentially getting to a conference championship. I think the Arkansas team has that much potential. But at the end of the day, that's not a world we live in. You're playing with the Texases, the Alabamas, the Georgias, and the LSUs of the world. And I don't think Arkansas has the Jimmies and the Joes to compete with those guys. But let's get right into kind of just their roster buildup. And I know Arkansas fans who find this video are going to say you're missing this person, and that person. Just keep it with a grain of salt. We can only so much we can do when we have 24 hours to prepare for a certain team, and we're doing 100 of them before the season starts. Jaquindon Jackson, they lose them. He was a starting running back last year. I'm pretty sure he came over from Utah previously. Yes. Big power back. So you lose him. But like you said, they bring back, I think you said Braylon Russell. He comes back to be the starting guy next year. I think obviously the eye-popping thing on this screen and for Arkansas fans is Taylor Green, one of the more dynamic quarterbacks in college football. So I do think this offense is going to be explosive. I think this offense has a lot of potential. Like you said, they do have some wide receivers coming in from the transfer portal. I think they signed 5 or 6. A lot of them were for lower caliber teams. But at the end of the day, I think we've seen so many other lower caliber teams put out good wide receivers. Hence the Louisville Jamari Thrash signing from Georgia State, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He kind of popped going over to the ACC. So I think that can happen. But as far as kind of where this team can go based on this roster, I want to see how they look in their first couple of games, because I think there's still a lot of question marks, surrounding this team as far as productivity. You lose your tight end, you lose your starting running back, you lose your number 1 wide receiver. You only had 2 players drafted. So this team didn't, they never really push out a lot of high quality draft picks. So, I mean, it was kind of hard to find key losses, in quotation marks. But you bring back your most important piece, and that's Taylor Green. So I think if he's able to, kind of work the offense around him, I think this team has a very high ceiling. But because of the floor, I have the floor very low, and that's because of the question marks surrounding the productivity brought back. And again, this team may pop, and this might be a really good team after the first couple of weeks of us seeing them. But I'm a little bit skeptic because of how hard their schedule is and the amount of unknowns that they have as far as who's going to be taking the field for this team.
Yeah, I like that wide receiver group. Again, we can talk all day about Taylor Green, a true dual threat quarterback who I think is going to really pop. But let me also say, and you got it up here as well, I got to give props to the fact that they're returning both of their starting linebackers. I think that's going to be a big deal. A little concerned about the pass rush, but that linebacking core is going to be pretty good. Again, I'm not expecting Arkansas to be world beaters. I think they are, on a certain Saturday, going to shock the world. I think they're going to be able to beat a team that we don't suspect them being able to beat, because I think Taylor Green is that dynamic, and they added a bunch of guys, the misfits that one of those guys gets with a good quarterback and may pop off. Like I said, I think the talent is there. It's definitely there in college football 25. And this is not a paid advertisement, but in the second year, Arkansas is always good.
I'll go ahead and let you go and give your take on their prediction before I go.
Yeah. So we've already covered some of these games. So you guys should know that I have to pick it beating Tennessee and Auburn. Yeah, I have their floor 4-8. But like I said, I think this is a pretty decent team. None of the games, as I initially said, none of the games that I initially had them losing look crazy. I think Ole Miss takes a big step back from Jackson Dart and all the players that they lost this year. I think Tennessee, as we talked about in their preview already, takes a little bit of a step back, especially with that whole Nico situation. And remember, this Arkansas team beat them last year. The teams I have them losing to, I just think are better than them. The Notre Dame, Texas A&M, LSU, Texas. I'd be very shocked. The only game that I even have questionable there is that Texas A&M game, and that's because that game is not at Kyle Field. It is in Arkansas. But the rest of these, the Notre Dame, LSU, Texas game are my three, what I would call pretty solid losses. But as I look at the schedule, I can name, as you see by my floor, another four, what we'll call possible losses. And I'm just kind of high on them because I think having a dynamic senior quarterback who's a dual threat guy returning to the same system is a big deal. I think that means something. And I think that is going to help project them. So when we talk about Ole Miss, that's a new quarterback situation. When we talk about Tennessee, that's a new quarterback situation. When we talk about Auburn, that's a new quarterback situation. So that's why I give them a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah, so obviously we have the same floor. I have a higher ceiling than you. I think the only two games I can't see them winning are at LSU, at Texas. I can see them winning against Notre Dame just because it's at home. So I'm not going to say it's impossible for them to win that game, but I do not see them winning on the road in Death Valley. I'm assuming it's going to be a night game. Every damn game they have is a night game. And then at Texas, I think Texas is a top 3 team in college football. I just don't think Arkansas can compete with them. I obviously have my floor the same as yours, and my prediction is a lot closer to the floor. Your prediction is a lot closer to the ceiling. So we're definitely way off on this. The only reason why I think they lose to Ole Miss is because it's in Oxford. That's your first test. And I think when you look at an Ole Miss team, I think that's going to be their first real opponent. So that crowd is going to be rocking. I don't think you can beat a Notre Dame. And I obviously have them losing 4 straight games. And the reason for that is because I think Notre Dame's defense is very good. I think Tennessee's crowd is very good. And then I think the rest of your schedule, you're playing against very good defenses. I just don't think, and I'm not wishing this upon him, but I don't think if you get a banged up Taylor Green or if he misses a few games, I think your season is over. I think there's no way. I mean, and it's very hard for a quarterback on a bad team in the SEC to stay healthy. It's very hard. And especially because I think Arkansas without Taylor Green is a completely different team. I think Taylor Green changes the dynamic of the entire team. So let's say we take Taylor Green out of the equation, which I understand he's a starting quarterback. We take him out of the equation. I don't think we even look at them as beating half of these people on this list. I don't think it's even possible. Agreed. So I do expect when you play a Notre Dame, a Tennessee, an A&M, and an Auburn back to back to back to back, 3 of those games obviously at home. So you should have better advantage, I guess we'd say. But I think you're going to be underdogs in every one of those games. I think it's going to be very tough to beat those teams when you start off with Notre Dame, who is a national championship contender with arguably the best defense in college football. Top 3 to top 5 or so. I just don't know what you're going to be able to do when you're reeling off that many games. So I have them going 5-7, but obviously I see their ceiling at 10-2. So I think they can win all of those other games. Would I predict that? No. I know ESPN has their projection at 6-6, which I mean I obviously have them right around there as well. I think the Auburn game and the Ole Miss game are very winnable for Arkansas. But the Notre Dame, Tennessee, A&M, LSU, Texas, I don't see it. Tennessee, maybe because Tennessee is a new, they have a quarterback change, but playing on the road in Tennessee is hard. I mean, I just think it's one of the hardest atmospheres. And there's the skill positions that we know as of right now. Again, Arkansas fans are going to butcher me for this, but we just simply don't know what we're going to get on the field. And I say this every time that I predict somebody to go less than 9-3 because the Arkansas fans are going to come flocking in saying how I don't know anything about football and I didn't do my research. It's hard to do research on these players because there's not much to research at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a fact.
That's what it is. We're going off of potential and not productivity.
Yeah, but this is when we look at some of these, right? So if you go to Ole Miss, again, a new quarterback situation with a quarterback that we could say the same thing about, right? I don't think many of us know much about Austin Simmons, the quarterback at Ole Miss. Again, we talked about Tennessee and their quarterback situation. Again, we're coming off of Nico. We're coming off of a dynamic quarterback that we knew a lot about. I don't think we know a lot about Joey Aguilar, especially in the SEC. I understand that he played very well at App State. And again, I don't even want to say very well at App State. He played decently at App State, but this is a step up. So if we're saying quarterback is the most important position, Arkansas is one of the better quarterbacks, especially with returning productivity, right? So in that, let me remove people like Arch Manning, some of the guys that we think may really pop, but we don't know yet. Gunnar Stockton. Let me remove some of the guys that we don't know. In terms of actual return and productivity, Arkansas has one of the quarterbacks with the best return and productivity, which to me, again, when you mix that with a super senior who played pretty well, especially for an Arkansas team last year, I think that leads to me believing that this team might be a little bit better than we think.
So I will say what swayed me in the Ole Miss and Tennessee games was the home field advantage. I think if Ole Miss was playing at Arkansas, I would probably take Arkansas. I think the game is that close. Same thing with Tennessee. I think that game is going to be very close, but I just favor them being on the road. I think being on the road is a big deal in college football. I've said this. I beat that same drum for the past 10 videos. I think road games are very tough to win, especially in the SEC. I don't think Ole Miss is a far superior team than Arkansas. I don't think Tennessee is a far superior team than Arkansas. But I think going on the road, and when you're splitting hairs, I'm going to favor that home team. And I think the other games that I have them losing, obviously at home, I think Notre Dame is a better team than you. I think A&M is a better team than you. And I think the Auburn-Arkansas game is very close, but I think Auburn is slightly better. That's why I favor Auburn in that game. I think the defense is going to be good. I think they have a renewed passing game and, wide receiver room. But I wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas won that game because it's at home. But the Notre Dame and A&M game, I favor Notre Dame and A&M heavy. And I'm also very high on A&M this year, so that's probably why. But let us know in the comment section what you guys think about this team. I know the Arkansas fans are going to flock in. It's been a little bit since one video kind of popped with all straight fans. It's been a while. And I would hate for it to be a video that I am downing your team because it's probably going to happen. So if it is, then it is. You got one person on here who thinks y'all are going to be amazing. So just take that with a grain of salt. Ride with my dad on that one.
Amazing.
I think 8-4 is really good for Arkansas.
Okay, you think they'd be happy with that? Okay.
Well, no, I don't know if they'd be happy with that because we got people's team who go 4-8 and they think they win in the damn national championship this season. So we'll see. But make sure you guys subscribe and join the nation. Like the video. We will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.
Peace.